Her name is, it sounds like Felisa. She was a great fairy queen way back like 30,000 years ago. And Shrimakadera, you have an earthly connection with her as well. She can work as a guide for you so you can remember some of these ancient times. You have also connection with the dolphins from Sirius B. You have that capacity to speak with the dolphins as well. And so you can actually call them in when you swim, and they may come to you. Somewhat with the whales, but not as much. As you travel throughout the galaxies and universes, you did stop. You knew me when I was living on Sirius A in my early days, spiritual days, and you worked with the bird tribe and the lion tribe, which is on Sirius B, as well as the dolphin. They're ancient beings that used to come here to Earth in the early days before any civilization that we know of was here in the early days. Some of the Syrians, of course, built the Great Pyramids. As well as with Thoth. Thoth is Syrian as well. When you started to lower your frequencies in preparation for your etheric lives coming to Earth, you actually came down to Earth. The very end of Mu, right before there was a destruction by a meteorite, hit Earth, knocked it on its axis, killed the dinosaurs off. And then much of the continent sank on both sides, and the Earth changed its form. And this became Lemuria, which means daughter of Mu, about 850,000 years ago. So you came briefly for that, stopped in right before the Cataclysm event. Was working with many of the great other avatars and angels in preparation of what was to come. You came back down in Lemuria in a more etheric form, still fully conscious, not quite mortal. Helped to restore and beautify many of the areas here and what is known as the Hawaiian Islands, especially I feel like Molokai, the western part of Molokai over to Kauai, and some of maybe a little bit of Oahu, but not much, mostly Kauai, is a very energetic place for you, all the way over to Tibet. Because when there was an original big continent, it was where the ocean is now. It was a big land mass. Now it's all sunk. It just kind of went and did the opposite of what it did. You stayed there for about 6,000 years, staying here and going, beautifying and repairing and raising back up sacred spots that Nemaya sank. You went back up about, she stayed around about 6,000 years. You went back up into your avatar form, but still lowering your frequencies. You went to Venus briefly. Venus is like a college for people who are going to do incarnations on Earth. So you went to Venus briefly. Actually helped teach others and prepare them for coming to their incarnations for quite a while, a couple 100,000 years, what weird term, a couple 100,000. You came back, you went to Mars and helped restore Mars briefly a little bit after its atmosphere got torn off. Helped rescue some souls that were there. You worked with Galactic Federation this whole time, as well as the angelic realm. You went to, it feels like you went to Mercury. Is it Mercury? It's off to the side of Earth, which is really strange. So it's not the moon. It's not really Mercury. There was like another, maybe it's the second moon that I'm thinking, because we used to have two moons, and the Atlanteans destroyed one. Is it the second moon? Yeah, the original second moon of Earth, because there was two original moons. They were both destroyed, and we got a false fake moon. Shinimikutake worked on that moon briefly for a while, beautifying it. It was a very beautiful moon. It actually had foliage and air and stuff. Not so much a living place, though, more just for beauty. Shinimikutake didn't form enough to become an Earth or a world. Stayed there for a while, came to Earth, going back and forth with Earth and the Galactic Federation. Let's go back, let's speed up to your first physical life and incarnation. Was it on Earth? No, your first physical incarnation actually was on Saturn in the 9th dimension, with the 9th dimensional body. So even though it was physical, it was fully conscious. Okay, stayed there for quite a while, working with the Galactic Federation. Neptune, we went to Neptune, had incarnation there. There's different extraterrestrial beings in the different dimensions living there. We can't see them. We think the planets are void because they're the higher dimensional planets. So, brief stop in Pluto and then back to Earth. Your first incarnation physical was in the second period of Lemuria, towards the end, right before the second cataclysm event. When the Atlanteans split off and created the Atlantean Empire, they became more scientific, and eventually over time they degraded, and they ended up playing around with stuff they shouldn't have, like our harp today, and destroying one of the firmaments of heaven and causing the great floods. That's the second cataclysm, major cataclysm of the earth. There were other smaller, minor, and other cataclysms before that, but came down to Lemuria, helped restore it once again. They worked with fairies and elvenkind and the Mo'o and different beings that were here. This time you stayed mostly in Maui. What would be called Oluwalu, and back in there, Iao Valley, that area. Haleakala, of course, was still going off at that time, but you worked with Pele and the goddess, and goddesses had arrived by then, and they're working with the fairy beings and divas. You stayed here until 1000 BC. Working mostly in this area. You went to Tibet during that time period as well. That's be like the far west side of Lemuria. Actually helped build and work in the Great White Pyramid and other periods in China, Mongolia, and that area. There are sacred libraries buried all over the earth with artifacts and records. So you actually helped Jesus bring forth records into that area because he was working back in those time periods. Some of them, he had an incarnation as Enki, and then you know that. So stayed there. In 1000 BC, you went to what would become known as the Jerusalem area. You were actually prepping the area for what was to be with Jesus Christ when he would incarnate as Jesus Christ. There's sacred ley lines and energies and portals that all needed to be tweaked, and so you stayed in that area. Later in life, you actually had a Palestinian life in that area, and that would be about 700 AD, what would become Palestine, known as Palestine. You went over to Egypt, had 13 Egyptian lives. Worked with many of the Atlantean artifacts that were brought up and restored underneath the big Pyramid of Giza. You actually worked with me at that lifetime. And you are of the bloodline of Osiris and Isis. Osiris mostly. An ancient bloodline from the stars. Venusian, also Syrian. Goes way back. He's actually saying hello. He's calling you little mother. So I don't know what that means. You were very motherly to the children. So little mother. I used to call you little mother. And you will see him again when he is restored back to the earth. He's coming back with many of the ancient gods and what we term god and goddesses of beings here. You worked with King Tut. You were his nanny. his nanny. I'm assuming what else? You had a couple normal lives, one a fisherman, one a female Egyptian. I see children running around you. Just experiencing normal lives as well and gaining knowledge and information as being an incarnate human being. You served down after that. You went to South Africa, served as a native there. He had a long life as a shaman there. Lived to be about 102. That one didn't have family, but you had like mother, father, obviously, again, brothers and sisters. Served a long life there. Had another incarnation further over towards the west side of Africa, towards almost Madagascar, but on the African continent. White man, first white, like a sailor man that lived there and loved the natives and stayed there. Married a native woman, had children. I don't know where Mozambique is, but you had an incarnation in what would become Mozambique. You went up into like Yemen, Saudi Arabia. You would be considered guardian of the ancient sites in that tribe. You were a man, but you were guardian of some of the ancient sites there. Knew about manna from heaven, which is the white substance that it's almost like a fungus, but it's edible and it gives you higher consciousness, sort of like ayahuasca, but different. And they can also, it's also in modern times they could make the same substance out of, it's a high frequency metal It becomes a white powder. They actually learned how to make it that way, and it was purer and better for you. But stayed in that life for 3 lifetimes, went up into, again, like Jerusalem. It's like the Suez Canal in Jerusalem, kind of traveled around. Let's go. 10,000, what time period is this? That's about 600 AD. 800 AD, Egypt, along the Nile. 900 AD, up into the Sudan, over that way towards Jerusalem. You had an incarnation in Germany in the 1300s. Getting back more into like Norman, almost Druid in energy feeling to it. Went over to France next in the 1400s, had a life in France, musician, artist. You went down into Spain in your next incarnation. It was actually like, I'm just seeing like the bullfighters. But you were female, like your husband was a bullfighter or had something to do with the bullfighting. But that bullfighting has a connection with ancient knowledge, so people don't realize that it has connections there. You went to Wales next, served as a doctor, medicine person, and 1800s. Okay, we'll speed it up. 1800s, London, England, 1900s, this life. And so let's go to some of you guys, of course, I mentioned already. Mother Mary, of course, Jesus, any of the archangels and angelic realms, some of the avatars, and that one that I mentioned. You had a Mayan life, and you do have a Mayan king. His name is, today he would be called Roberto. So you can call him Roberto because it's easier than the Mayan names, which I can't pronounce. He'll come through for you, any of your South American ancient lives there. And your father's father is doing the family thing in the spirit realms. So you can, I don't know what his name is, it sounds like Robert or Bob or whatever. So you can talk to him. He's doing the family. We have family members on the other side who are kind of like the patriarch to make sure it's gathering everybody when they come crossover and helping them out. So your father's doing that. So, and if in another future time, if you want to talk to any who are deceased, I also do mediumship. Sometimes they come through when I'm doing readings. So let's ask some questions that you might have.
You had mentioned a lot of things. And I actually don't have any questions on
what
camera.
Made you cry? What did you resonated with you that made you cry? Was that because
how's my makeup? There was a lot.
What did you always?
There was a lot. Okay.
Okay.
I'll tell you one specific.
Yeah.
As a child, I used to have a reoccurring dream.
Okay.
And it was very specific, and it was reoccurring. It was in this cliff dwelling that was connected to the sea.
Was it
like
was
modern,
futuristic?
Okay. And
or another planet.
Or another planet, but it was connected to the sea, and the dolphins could come in and out, and I was the only one who was able to talk to them. And I wasn't a scientist, but I was just, I'd come up to them, kind of like Flipper,
you know, and consciousness could communicate with them.
But it was so.
Okay, let me see. Previous world, other planet.
Very blue.
It was actually on Series B, because they do have cliff dwellings like that. It was a time, it almost feels like your family moved there temporarily for a visitation. Like, let's go to vacation on Series B. And it was, cliff dwellings. They were highly modern technology. Of course, they were created through manifestation and consciousness. And you had that ability, that gift, which carries over into this life. So.
And some of the places you've mentioned on Earth, I've been to and had.
You've actually visited them in this life?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And felt very drawn. And I wasn't drawn, I was drawn to this archipelago.
Like an island somewhere?
here.
Oh, here, island.
You know,
Hawaii.
and that
Yeah.
brought in when you brought
Many
up
of the people who
Kaulavi.
feel to come to Hawaii, even if it's just vacation, sometimes they're not awake enough to know that they've had past lives here. They just feel that connection. They need to come here for some reason. And that usually it's because they had past lives here. And what they're doing is we leave an imprint, energy imprint, wherever we go. And sometimes when we come back, we reconnect with that. And we need that time sometimes for our ascension or whatever.
Right.
So that's probably why.
And I haven't been to Egypt, but I did visit
That's my dream, too.
Ramses. Ramesses?
When the Egyptians was
When
touring
I was
around?
younger in Germany, and he was visiting, his sarcophagus was visiting an art museum that I went to visit. And it was just amazing, the connection that I was experiencing.
I saw that when I was in college. They actually at Brigham, I used to be a Mormon, and while I was in college at BYU, they actually built over one of our small museums an entire like pyramid things that actually looked like the real pyramid, and you were going inside, and but they had armed guards and everything because this stuff is solid gold, you know. And so, but it was just that connection was like, wow, you know. My dream is to go to Egypt someday. So.
And the last question, question. How can I be humble walking on this planet every morning I wake up with knowing all of this that you just told me?
But you are humble. Just talking to you, I can already
But now
sense
my
it.
head's going to swell. It's going to be...
No, watch the ego. Just say,
Yeah.
I'm no better than or no lesser than anyone else, and we're all at one in unity. The thumb can't say the pinky, I have no need for you. You know, that's how we need to look at ourselves, because we're going into unity as one-man. We're actually, like, if you can picture ourselves as little brain cells in connection to Gaia. We're actually becoming part of Gaia as a one beingness and consciousness. It's like we're little brain cells for Gaia.